Welcome to today's Explainer. If you or someone you know has been affected by the devastating recent wildfires in places like Los Angeles, Malibu, Altadena, or Pasadena, my heart genuinely goes out to you. Rebuilding after losing everything is an incredibly heavy emotional burden. Today, we're looking at the critical science and strategy behind how we rebuild. Specifically, we're going to explore the vital shift from vulnerable wood-framed homes to resilient Type 3 construction. This explainer is designed to equip you with the exact knowledge you need to build back safer, smarter, and stronger.
Okay, let's dive right into this. To make this whole, sometimes overwhelming process manageable, we're going to break it down into 5 logical steps. We'll look at the wildfire rebuilding problem, what Type 3 construction actually is, the materials you need for fire resilience, creating your defensible space, and finally, the design-build advantage.
So, starting with Phase 1, the wildfire rebuilding problem, and a look at the status quo of modern construction.
You know, when a fire sweeps through a neighborhood, clearing the lot is really just the very first step, but standing on that empty dirt, families face a massive decision. And it begs a really crucial question. Why on earth are we still building homes primarily out of wood in wildfire-prone areas like Los Angeles? I mean, with climate change and severe droughts fueling these massive fires, rebuilding with highly combustible materials just feels totally counterintuitive, right?
Well, the answer actually comes down to red tape. The city of Los Angeles has long facilitated what's known as Type 5 construction, which is basically just lightweight wood framing. Why? Because the Department of Building and Safety gives you a standardized, prescriptive handout for it. It's a simple, cheap permitting process that doesn't even require a licensed architect. Sure, it streamlines approvals, but the sad reality is it ensures highly vulnerable wood homes continue to dominate the exact zones that are most at risk.
That brings us to Phase 2. Enter Type 3 construction. This is the proven, scalable solution we need.
The great news here is that our solution isn't some experimental sci-fi building method. If we compare the frameworks side by side, on one hand we have Type V wood framing. It's affordable, it's fast, but it relies on highly combustible fuel. On the other hand is Type 3, which is often called ordinary construction. The absolute game changer with Type 3 is that it utilizes non-combustible exterior walls like concrete or masonry. It's actually already widely used in multifamily housing, but scaling it down to single-family homes is an absolute necessity if we want them to survive modern ember storms.
Now, to truly grasp how Type 3 works, we've got to demystify some dense building code jargon. You're probably going to hear the term fire assembly ratings. This is just the measured ability of a building component, like a wall, floor, or roof, to resist fire penetration for a specific amount of time, usually measured in hours. But let's bring this back to the human element for a second. This rating isn't just arbitrary code. It's the critical buffer time you need to safely get your family out and for firefighters to respond before a structure collapses.
So the crucial point to take away here is this massive number. 2. Upgrading your exterior walls from a standard 1-hour rating to a 2-hour rating is quite literally life-saving. A 2-hour rated wall can withstand fire exposure twice as long. That means it prevents ignition from radiant heat and embers, dramatically drops the likelihood of structural failure, and buys you that invaluable extra hour. And when you consider that wildfire embers can travel on the wind for literal miles ahead of the actual fire front, well, that extra hour means absolutely everything.
Moving on to Phase 3, materials for fire resilience. Let's talk about building the ultimate barrier.
When we look at the actual bones of a Type 3 home, these are the heavy hitters you want for your exterior walls. We're talking about concrete block or insulated concrete forms, also known as ICFs. These are incredibly thermally stable. You pair those with fire-resistant gypsum board like Type X or C and fiber cement siding. But let's pause on stucco for a second. Standard LA stucco over a wood frame, that only gives you a 1-hour rating. But a modified 7/8" stucco skim coat over concrete block, that stops radiant heat dead in its tracks and locks in that golden 2-hour rating.
And hey, it's not just the walls. The roof is a massive target for falling embers. Standard Type 3 code usually only requires a 1-hour roof. But if you're rebuilding in an extreme fire zone, you absolutely must push for a 2-hour rated roof assembly. This means combining Class A materials, like metal or concrete tiles, with continuous roof decking to minimize any gaps, and slapping on gutter guards to keep flammable debris out of the gutters.
Now, beyond those large surfaces, you have to protect the micro openings. Boxed eaves are actually a code requirement in LA now for high fire zones. You also need 1/8" metal mesh on your vented soffits, but honestly, even better, look for innovative intumescent vent products. These are amazing materials that physically expand when they're exposed to heat, totally sealing off the vent during a fire. Just make sure to look for LARR certified products to ensure they meet LA's strict testing. Oh, and down at the foundation? Moving to a solid concrete slab-on-grade foundation means you have zero crawl space, because crawl spaces, they are notorious traps for sneaky embers and combustible debris.
Okay, phase 4, creating your defensible space. Let's head out to the exterior battleground.
Because listen, no matter how fortified your physical home is, its survival heavily depends on the immediate landscape surrounding it. The Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety outlines a vital rule of 3 for landscaping zones. Zone 0 is the immediate 0 to 5 feet around your house. This must be entirely non-combustible. Think gravel, pavers, hardscaping. Absolutely no mulch or wood chips here, guys. Then moving outward to Zone 1, 5 to 30 feet out, you want low-growing, fire-resistant plants and pruned trees to maintain a buffer. Finally, in Zone 2, from 30 out to 100 feet, you're thinning vegetation and removing ladder fuels that allow ground fires to climb into the tree canopy. This progressive buffer essentially starves the fire before it can even touch your walls.
To pull this off, you need fire-adaptive landscaping. We're talking about specific plant choices with high moisture and low resin, like succulents, lavender, or ceanothus, and you want to maintain them with smart drip irrigation. You also want to make sure there's at least a 10-foot gap between your tree canopies. And here is a super critical warning: do not attach a wooden fence directly to your house. A wooden fence is literally a fire conduit. It's a fuse that leads right up to your siding. Stick to non-combustible steel or masonry fencing near the actual structure.
And finally, phase 5, the design-build advantage, execution with empathy.
Knowing what to build is one thing, but actually managing this incredibly stressful project is a whole other beast. Traditionally, people use a design, build, build method that fragments the project between an architect and a separate contractor, which often leads to huge communication gaps. The design-build model, on the other hand, offers one unified team. This gives you single-point accountability. Because the design and construction phases overlap, you get a much more streamlined timeline. And most importantly, you get collaborative solutions with true cost transparency, meaning all-in budgets right up front. No hidden surprises caught between the architect's dream and the builder's reality.
A really great example of this in action is the firm that actually authored our source material today, Letter 4. What makes an approach like theirs so effective is having truly in-house licensed architects and contractors. They aren't just a builder subcontracting out the design work. By utilizing a clear 4-step process, 3D BIM software to visualize the home, and a custom client portal, they provide an empathetic, highly organized approach. This ensures that the really intricate details of Type 3 wildfire resilience are seamlessly integrated from the very first sketch all the way to the final nail, in a way that is practical and cost-effective. I want to leave you with this powerful thought from our source material. Investing in fire-resilient construction is not just about protecting individual homes, it's about safeguarding entire communities. When you build a Type 3 home, you aren't just creating a fortress for yourself, you are literally creating a fire break for your neighbors. So I have to ask, as we face a changing climate and the reality of living in these beautiful but vulnerable areas, isn't it time we completely rethink our neighborhood building codes to ensure our communities are actually built to last? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.